forget killer robots for a second, okay? What if the real turning point when it comes to AI, like the real turning point, isn't machines taking over, our bodies and stuff, but like our minds?
Yeah, it's
That's
interesting.
the wild frontier we're stepping into today. As
Yeah.
we unpack this whole race for artificial general intelligence, or AGI as the cool kids call it.
Right, and the book we're looking at, the AGI race, their argument is this isn't like way off in the future sci-fi stuff.
Right.
This is happening right now.
Yeah.
And there are two major players, two powerhouses, who have very different approaches to how to get there.
You're talking OpenAI and Anthropic, right?
Yeah.
I feel like every other day there's an article about one of them, their AI wrote a screenplay or something.
Yeah.
Or it's going to, become sentient while it's making a grocery list.
It's very easy to get caught up in all of that, all the hype, all the noise.
Right.
But what I think is really fascinating is that these two companies, they both want to create AGI, but how they think we should get there, their approach, is completely different.
Okay.
And even more important than that, how to make sure that it doesn't become, as some people are saying, the last invention humanity makes, right?
Yeah.
How to make sure it's actually beneficial and not detrimental.
Okay, so back up for a second because I haven't dedicated my life to this.
Sure.
We've got AI. It can beat chess players, write poems. It can tell you what that weird thing on your arm is.
Right.
How is AGI different? Because it seems like we're doing okay.
So imagine that same AI that can do all those things, but instead of being really good at one thing, it's able to reason and learn across any domain, just like you can.
Okay.
It could, be writing a symphony 1 minute, designing a skyscraper the next, debating philosophy,
Right.
while making a Michelin star meal all at the same time.
So basically, really smart AI. So what makes this more than just my phone getting better at predicting what I'm going to type next?
Because it's not just about processing power, it's a fundamental shift in how we think about intelligence. Imagine a system that can literally teach itself anything.
Okay.
Solve problems we haven't even thought of.
Right.
And even improve its own design without us doing anything.
Okay, and now we're talking less helpful assistant, more potential rival. I mean, the possibilities are amazing. But this book, it doesn't just talk about how great it could be, right? It talks about the risks.
No, not at all. The AGI race lays out some pretty scary scenarios, things to really think about, like AGI just becoming so smart that it no longer needs humanity, or even more immediate things like mass unemployment.
Right.
Because all of a sudden, jobs that we thought only humans could do are being done by AI.
It's a lot to process. It feels very big, and you kind of feel like it's all out of our hands.
Yeah.
But maybe knowing, who's doing this, who are the big players, understanding their motivations, maybe that's a start. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk OpenAI.
Okay.
They're the ones that have really, put this whole AGI thing on everyone's radar, right?
They really know how to grab headlines, right? Whether it's ChatGPT, DALL-E, or like their newest language model that just broke another record, they're everywhere.
But it's not just the technology, though, is it? There's been a lot of talk about them. They started as a nonprofit.
Right.
And now they're this capped profit. I don't know. It just seems like, can you really have it both ways?
Yeah, it's a strange model, right?
Yeah.
And it's drawn both praise and criticism. So on the one hand, it's allowed them to get a ton of investment,
Right.
which means things move very quickly. But then on the other hand, you have to ask, well, who's actually in control of this really powerful technology?
Right. Especially because, OpenAI leadership, it's a mix of like these tech geniuses, these visionaries, but then also, business people who are very focused on the bottom line.
Right.
Is that the right group to lead us into this unknown future?
It's a really good question.
Or does it raise some red flags? I don't know.
It's definitely a question that's on my mind as we start to look at their counterpart, Anthropic,
Okay.
who are very, very different.
Yeah, if OpenAI is like the super fast train to the future, sleek, modern, that Anthropic feels like, I don't know.
A very carefully built, self-driving spaceship.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
OpenAI is all move fast, break things.
Right.
Anthropic is like, hold on, let's be careful, let's make sure this is safe.
Safety, transparency, that's what they're about. And one of the things they're really into is building ethics directly into their code from the ground up.
Okay.
They call it constitutional AI.
Constitutional AI, what does that even mean?
So imagine writing a constitution, but not for a country, but for AI. Oh, that's what they're trying to do. Bake in these principles, values, and moral compass into the actual fabric of the AI.
Which honestly, that sounds a lot more reassuring than some of the stuff we've heard from OpenAI.
Yeah.
But how do you even begin to, like, teach AI right from wrong?
Yeah.
Especially if it's getting smarter, more independent, potentially.
It's a great question. I mean, that's the million-dollar question. And luckily, it's something that this book really tries to dig into. And we're going to, we'll unpack that a bit more in depth a little bit later.
Okay, so we've got these two very different companies, and they're both trying to build the same thing, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
But in completely different ways.
And here's something really interesting just to add to it. Anthropic was actually founded by people who used to work at OpenAI.
Oh, really? It's like the Beatles breaking up and forming two rival bands.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, what did they see at OpenAI that made them leave? Was it a disagreement over safety, ethics? Or did they just have a completely different idea for how this incredible technology should be developed?
Right. Okay, I'm definitely sensing some drama there, but before we get into all that, like the philosophy and the ethics, tell me about the actual tech.
Sure.
This book gets into it a little bit, how each company is like actually trying to build this thing.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as I thought.
Yeah, it's not just about, building a bigger, faster computer.
Right.
Although both companies, that's definitely part of it.
Right.
But OpenAI, they've been winning in something called benchmarking.
Benchmarking. That sounds very corporate for something that could, like, literally change the world, you know?
Yeah, basically it means their systems are scoring higher on these tests.
Okay.
Of, like, processing power, problem solving.
Okay.
But Anthropic, they're all about safety and transparency, remember?
Right.
So they're taking a different approach.
So less pedal to the metal, more like making sure the car has brakes.
Exactly.
Right.
Like if AGI is this powerful engine, OpenAI is like, let's make the fastest engine possible. And Anthropic is like, hold on, we need a steering wheel, we need brakes, we need airbags.
Right, right.
Like they're really focused on making sure that it's controllable, that we understand it.
That makes sense, but isn't that, like, kind of risky?
How do you mean?
Like, while Anthropic is busy installing those metaphorical seatbelts,
Yeah.
couldn't someone else just, like, zoom past them?
Right.
Another company, another country?
This is the trade-off that, like, the book really gets into.
Okay.
This idea of speed versus control.
Right.
Do you want to be the fastest, even if you don't know what's going to happen?
Right.
Or do you go slowly and risk falling behind?
Right. And this isn't, like, a hypothetical, right? This is actually happening.
Oh, absolutely.
These decisions have real consequences.
Totally.
Speaking of which, let's talk about those consequences.
Okay.
Not just the tech, but how this could actually change our lives.
Yeah, this is one of the things I found really interesting about the book. It really tries to paint this picture of what a world with AGI would actually look like.
Okay.
And it's pretty amazing. We're talking about things like education that's personalized to how you learn best.
Right.
Transportation, no more traffic jams because AI is directing traffic in real time.
Okay, now that I'm listening, no more traffic jams.
Right?
That's a world I want to live in. But let's be honest, it's not all going to be, sunshine and roses.
Right.
What about the downsides? What about the kind of scary stuff?
No, the book talks about that too.
Okay.
The job market's a big one.
Yeah.
Like, some experts are saying we're going to need a universal basic income because AI is going to be doing so many of the jobs.
Well, yeah, if AI can write a podcast, what's to stop it from doing my taxes or, performing brain surgery?
Exactly.
It's a lot. And then what about just, like, us?
What do you mean?
Like, we're going to have to change our whole society.
Oh, yeah.
The way we teach kids in school, everything.
Oh, absolutely. Education's going to have to change completely. But it's not just about, learning how to use the new technology.
Right.
It's about thinking critically,
Yeah.
about how we use it and why.
Which brings us to regulations.
Yes.
Because let's be real, something this powerful, you can't just leave it up to, Silicon Valley.
It's a tough one.
Right.
Because how do you regulate something that might be smarter than you?
That's what I'm saying.
Like, how do you put up those guardrails, and who even gets to decide what those guardrails are?
Right, right.
And the book talks about how, like, AI governance is already complicated enough.
Right.
But this is a whole other level.
Right. We're building the plane as we're flying it.
Exactly.
So what does that actually look like in the real world?
So OpenAI, they've got the money. They've got the connections, right? So they're already talking to governments, trying to have a say in how this is all going to work.
Which, I mean, that could be a good thing.
Yeah.
Or it could be.
A power grab.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Anthropic.
So they're coming at it from this, like, ethics-first perspective, right? So they're saying true safety isn't just about rules, it's about making sure that from the very beginning, AGI respects human values, like it's built in.
That's really interesting. So it's like two totally different approaches. Some people think we can just like make some rules and it'll be fine.
Right.
And then other people are like, no, we need to fundamentally change how we're building this thing.
Yeah, it's an important debate.
It's a lot. It really feels like we're like standing on the edge of something huge, something that could be amazing or terrifying.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like we've got these two companies, they both think they're doing the right thing, and the fate of humanity is like hanging in the balance.
It's a lot of responsibility, right?
It makes you want to just like throw your phone in the ocean and, I don't know, go live in a cabin somewhere.
I get it, but,
Yeah.
hiding from it isn't really an option.
Right.
And that's actually what I thought was so great about this book. It doesn't try to pretend it has all the answers.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you like 5 easy steps to solve this.
Right.
It's more about like asking the right questions.
So if we're going to build this thing, shouldn't we at least try to understand it?
Exactly.
Figure out how to control it, before it's too late.
100%. And that's why I think like conversations like this are so important.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the hype, the fear, all the headlines.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But taking the time to really get it, the different approaches, the good, the bad, that's how we actually make a difference.
So knowing all this, like where do we go from here? If someone's listening to this and they're like, okay, this AGI thing is happening, it's going to change everything, what can I even do?
Right.
What do they do?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this isn't just about like lines of code or algorithms. This is about us.
Okay.
It's about the choices we make, the world we want to live in.
So we have a say in this.
Absolutely. We can talk to people, our friends, our families, our elected officials. We can read books like this, the AGI race, and decide for ourselves what we think.
Right. Educate yourself.
Yeah, because the more we know, the better prepared we'll be, to deal with whatever comes next.
Because this isn't just some like abstract problem anymore.
Right.
This is our future we're talking about.
And that future is being written right now.
Oof. Oh,
in real time.
On that note, I actually want to leave everyone with this one thought from the book.
Okay.
This really stuck with me. I think it kind of sums up this whole thing perfectly. It says, the development of AGI is not a race to be won, but a journey to be navigated with both ambition and humility.
I love that.
Right.
Because it reminds us that, we need to be ambitious. We need to push the boundaries of what's possible, but we also need to be humble.
Right.
To remember that we don't have all the answers and that the choices we make today will have huge consequences.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of AGI.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, the future is not something that just happens to us
We are creating it
every single day.